Hello everyone, welcome to today's news starter. Let's begin with the most important news which we have to analyze for the day. Before getting into the topics, let's start with the prelims practice question. It is a statement-based question. So these days, such questions are coming a lot in the examination. So we should know about how to go through these kind of questions. So when they are giving a statement, or giving one statement and asking about it, it becomes very easy. Even two statements are fine, but sometimes they give three or four statements, which becomes very difficult to solve. Here, for example, if you see three statements are there. Ethanol is produced by the fermentation of sugars by yeast. India's target of ethanol blended petroleum is 30% by 2030. Public sector oil marketing companies have started selling E20, that is 20% ethanol blended petrol across the country. So, in order to answer this, you need to know very well about India's ethanol blending program. And this is why I always tell the weightage for current affairs has increased a lot in the recent time, because earlier you were getting questions which were based on certain fact from current affairs. It becomes very easy to answer it. And now, even from current affairs, you won't get direct questions. Questions would be like this, where you need to have a complete idea about all the statements. Only then you can answer. Let's discuss about it by the end of the session. I will also tell you some tips and tricks to solve these kind of questions. So watch it. Garner reserving bill for president. So this topic has been in the news regularly. There is a lot of controversies going on. There are a lot of controversies going on related to governor's power to reserve the bill for president. There are three certain circumstances in which the governor can reserve the bill for the presidential consideration. And in other situations, it is not appropriate for the governor to reserve the bill for president. Only in these three situations, he can reserve. One is under Article 200, second one under Article 213, and third under Article 254. Under Article 200, it is told that bills which are introduced in the state legislative assembly, which are derogatory to the power of the High Court. That is, if the state introduce a bill which is going to reduce the power of the High Court, then such bill has to be referred to the president by the governor. Second scenario, under Article 213, ordinance making power of the governor. If the governor has to make an ordinance, he has to first get instruction from the president. Only then he can make ordinance. The governor cannot make ordinance on his own. Third situation, a state law which is present in the concurrent list, which is against the central law. In such case, he can refer it to the president. In all the other situations, he cannot refer a bill to the president. So it is a very important question for prelims 2024. You need to know about it very well. Right. Now coming to the other provisions, the president has no jurisdiction to scrutinize and give assent to a bill exclusively in the state list. If a state is bringing in a bill which belongs to a state subject, the president has no power or jurisdiction over it, and the governor should not reserve such a bill to the president. It will be completely against the federal scheme if such a thing happens. Then, if the governor thinks that a bill contains unconstitutional provisions, the only option the governor has is he can send back the bill to the assembly itself for reconsideration. Just because the governor think that a bill introduced in the state legislative assembly is unconstitutional, he cannot reserve the bill for presidential consideration. In such cases, he can send the bill back to the assembly, and then the assembly can discuss about it. If the assembly passes the bill again, then the governor has no other way. He has to give a go for that bill. This is how the constitution has mentioned it. We as people who are preparing for the UPSC examination have to be very clear about it. Issues related to anti-defection law. What exactly is anti-defection law? The 52nd constitutional amendment, which was introduced in the year 1985, gave power for the speaker or the chairman to disqualify a legislative assembly member or the member of parliament if he or she contests and win election with the ticket of one particular party, and after getting elected join in some other party. This is what 10th schedule is. But the problem with the anti-defection law is it prevents individual person from joining some other party by defecting from his or her party. But it gives a provision for them to join as a group. For example, if there is a party which has 100 members in the legislative assembly, if two-thirds of the members, that is 2 by 3 means 66 out of 100. If 66 or 67 members come out of the group, out of the party and join with some other party, then it is considered to be legal. It is not against the law. So this is the major problem with the anti-defection law. Other than this, the provision that the speaker has all the power to disqualify anyone is also a controversial provision because the speaker is usually from the ruling party. So in such case, it becomes very difficult to oppose the speaker. However, one point which we should be very clear about anti-defection law here is whatever decision the speaker or the chairman is making, it is subjected to judicial review. That is, the Supreme Court can check whether the speaker or the chairman has acted in a proper constitutional way. Right? So this provision has to be very clear. Grounds of defection, what are all the reasons with which anti-defection law can happen? One thing, voluntarily giving up. If a person who is a MP or MLA voluntarily gives up his power, his position, it can be considered as defection. Violation of instruction, if the party leadership is giving some instruction and the member is acting against the instruction, then it is considered to be defection. If an independent member joins a political party after getting elected, that is also called as defection. If a person who is nominated to the assembly, nominated to the legislature, and 6 months has crossed from the time he has been nominated, and after that if he joins a political party, it is also considered as defection. So these are all the major provisions related to defection and the problems related to defection. Now discussing about the communicable diseases and its burden in India, because in GS2 we have a topic called health, human resource, education. These topics comes in GS2. So we need to know about it. So the World Bank gave a report in 2019 in which it was mentioned that worldwide 70% of all overweight people are actually living in lower and middle income countries, not in the rich countries. Usually people think that when we talk about obesity or overweight, it is the countries such as United States or UK, which are very rich in nature. We think that it is there a lot of obese people are there, but in reality it is not true. It is actually in lower and middle income countries the obesity is very high. So why obesity is very high in lower and middle income countries? The reason is very simple, because in lower and middle income countries the diet is mostly based on carbohydrates and fat and not on protein, because protein in the recent time has become very costly. Earlier, it was not the case. Now, meat-based food, eggs, such foods have become very costly. And again, very less awareness about food and the health that is aligned with the food habits. So these are all the reasons for increase in obesity. Even in India, the non-communicable diseases burden has skyrocketed recently. It was 38% in 1990. In 2019, it was 65%. What are the major reasons for increase in non-communicable diseases? Largest, India has a lot of India has a lot of land which is under the cultivation of sugar. So India has been producing sugar to a greater extent. In the recent times, India has become the largest producer and the consumer of sugar also. Indian population consumes ultra high processed food. Everywhere you go, any shop you go, you can see packaged foods, roasted, fried foods available very easily without any restriction. So it will result in increase of obesity also. We focus more on calorie rich food. We do not focus more on a diet which is focused more on overall nutrition. So these are all the reasons. So in the recent times, India has become a capital for diabetes. India has been considered as a country with very high amount of obesity. So what are all the solutions for this? One solution that can be taken is taxation of high fat, sugar, salt food. High fat, salt and sugar food. HFSS is high fat, salt and sugar. So if we are imposing a particular tax on these kind of food, and whatever money we are getting out of such tax, if we are diverting it towards the Ayushman Bharat scheme, it will result in reduction of non-communicable diseases. This is one thing. Promoting nutrition literacy and effective food labeling. This is something which is very important. The FSSAI, Food Safety and Security Authority of India, has to take extra care to ensure that the labeling of food in the country is happening properly, especially packaged food items. So these are all the things which you can mention in your mains question if you are getting a question on non-communicable diseases. What is ethanol blended petrol? It's very simple. Ethanol blended petrol means you take the normal petrol and you blend ethanol in it, because ethanol also can serve as a proper fuel. Why ethanol blended petrol? And this topic is very important for India, because from economic point of view, if you see, India imports 85% of its oil requirement. 85% of the oil we are importing from the Middle East countries and other countries all over the world, which is causing a big dent in our economy. So ethanol blended petrol is a solution for this. Now the target which the government have is 20% of the entire petroleum should be blended with ethanol by 2025. We are on track and we will achieve that also. How ethanol is produced? It is produced by fermentation of sugar by yeast. In the present stage, ethanol blending is mostly focused on food-based feedstock, that is mostly from sugarcane, wheat, the food waste from these kind of things. We are processing these foods and then we are producing ethanol. What are the major issues related to ethanol blended petrol? This we should know, because usually these provisions are asked in prelims, whereas these kind of provisions are asked mostly in mains. One of the major problem is India is ranked 101 out of 116 countries on Global Hunger Index 2021. Whereas when we talk about ethanol blending, most of the ethanol are made with food products. So when a country doesn't even have good amount of food for its people, is it good to take those food and make ethanol? That is one question, which is ethical also in nature. Second one, a lot of water is required for manufacturing of ethanol. A lot of land is required because you have to produce sugarcane, you have to produce wheat, for which a lot of land requirement is there. And then fossil fuel always have more efficiency when you compare with biofuels. So in such cases, whether it is a long-term solution or not is a question. So from long-term perspective, electric vehicles are the solution. Ethanol blended petrol can reduce our dependence on petroleum to a greater extent. But however, it is the electric vehicles which are going to give you a proper solution. An important perspective from mains examination point of view. In the year 2023, only 18 audits of union government were done by the Comptroller and Auditor General of India. So this clearly shows that in the recent times, the efficiency of Comptroller and Auditor General of India has been reducing, because earlier they used to make audits of around 40 every year. Later, it reduced to 22. Now it has reduced to 18. So this means the Comptroller and Auditor General's role has been declining in the recent times. Also, the staff strength has been reducing, and there is budget cut also for Comptroller and Auditor General. See, during the parliamentary debates, that is, during the constitutional debates, B.R. Ambedkar told that it is the Comptroller and Auditor General who can be considered as the most important office of the entire constitution. Among all the constitutional offices, it is the Comptroller and Auditor General who can be considered as the most efficient office. So the role of CAG is very important, and the government should try to increase their budget and increase their staff strength also. Mains question of the day: non-communicable disease has been on the rise in India. Analyze the reason for this and suggest measure to overcome the problem. Very simple. We have discussed about this topic earlier. You can just take the introduction from those points itself. Reasons we have already discussed. You can write it, and then measures. You can write the measures I have given. You can come up with your own measures also. From prelims examination point of view, one particular bill was introduced in Lok Sabha recently, that is the Provisional Collection of Taxes Bill 2023. This bill repeals the Provisional Collection of Taxes Act, which is at present there, which was passed in 1931. So what is the major reason? This bill, this Provisional Collection of Taxes Bill 2023, provides the government with the power for interim imposition or increase of customs or excise duty. That's all. Very simple. Just a small fact which you should remember from prelims examination point of view. So as I mentioned, these kind of questions are coming a lot in the recent times. In 2023 also, if you look at the question paper, statement-based questions are given more in number in the recent times. So three statements are given here. Let's look at these statements. The first statement is ethanol is produced by fermentation of sugar by yeast. If you have even studied the NCERT book of science and technology, you will understand that when sugars are fermented, it will produce alcohol. So this statement is absolutely correct. There is no doubt about it. The second one, India's target of ethanol blended petroleum is 30% by 2030. Usually, whenever a highly factual statement is given, it is wrong. This is the usual trend with which the questions are made. We cannot tell that it will be always wrong, but generally, a highly factual statement with a lot of numbers involved here is wrong. So this statement is wrong. Ethanol blended petroleum's target is 20% by 2025, not 30% by 2030. Third one is a very general statement. Whenever a very general statement is given, it is always correct. Public sector oil marketing companies have started selling E20 petrol across the country. There are a lot of public sector oil marketing companies. Even if one oil marketing company started to sell, this statement will become correct. So it is a very general statement. So this will always be correct. So 1 and 3 are correct. So that will be all for today. Study well. Let's meet tomorrow.